What is going on, everyone? My name is Adam with Pragmatic Ways, and today's video we're going to be going over how to create this unit conversion app using JavaFX and SceneBuilder. So I have a small example here of what our end goal is going to look like, and at the top here we have this drop down menu with the different types of units that we can convert. In this case, all I have is length and volume so far, but in our end goal that we'll build together, we'll have a whole bunch of other types like energy and speed and temperature and so on and so forth. And then we can just enter in, what units we're converting from and what units we're going to convert to. So we can drop down all these and change them as necessary and so on and so forth. So this tutorial here should be lots of fun because we're going to be going over lots of really cool different types of things like creating our own abstract classes and interfaces and learning all about polymorphism and just a lot of really other solid principles that make our code clean and robust. So without any further ado, let's jump on right into it. So first things first, we need to make sure that we have both JavaFX and SceneBuilder installed and imported into Eclipse already, or IntelliJ, depending on what IDE you are using. So if you don't have either of those done yet, check the description below for a couple links to a couple different videos. One I did on adding JavaFX to Eclipse in a very easy and simple walkthrough way, and another one from another video that I think is really great by BroCode. So pause this video here, go add JavaFX, go add SceneBuilder, and then come right back here. Alright, so now assuming that you do have JavaFX and SceneBuilder already installed, we're just going to go ahead and create a new project. And this will be a JavaFX project. I'll click on Next. I'll name this Unit Converter. For the project-specific JRE, I'm going to make sure I select my JavaFX one. And then click on Next. Under Libraries, click on Class Path, Add Library, make sure I select User Library, click Next. Make sure I check my JavaFX so I can add all the jars that we need. And they're all right there and beautiful, and I will click Finish. Now let's drop down here into the source folder. I'm going to open up the module info, get rid of this little squiggly line here. Alright, and now let's open up main, and let's try and run this here. And if you're on a Mac, we might have to go over to our run configurations and go over to the arguments and just make sure that both of these are both unchecked. And mine are already unchecked, so that's great. Now let's go ahead and create a new controller class. So I'm going to go in here and right click. I'm going to click on class, and I'll just call this controller, if I know how to spell controller. There we go. And I will finish that, and I don't really need to put anything in there yet because now I'm also going to create a FXML class. So again, I'm going to right click on application, click on new. This time I'm going to click other and make sure I'm under JavaFX, click on a new FXML document, click on next, and I'll call this one also controller. There we go. And I can close that. Let me go ahead and right click. We're going to open with SceneBuilder. Alright, under controller down here in the bottom left hand corner, I'm going to select my controller class, which is just called controller. And I can save that, minimize this for now because we don't really need that for time being. Now let's go back into main. First thing I'm going to do is delete this. I'm just going to say parent root equals FXML loader dot load. I'm going to say get class dot get resource, and this is just going to be our controller dot FXML. And I will save that I'm going to have to import a few different things here, like this parent from JavaFX scene, as well as this FXML loader. And this is going to be from here we go. Right down here, javafx.fxml. There we go. And I'll go ahead and press save, get rid of this unnecessary import here. And I'm also going to delete this right here where it's automatically setting the height and the width, because I want our scene builder to handle that for us. So with that out of the way, I can now press save. Now let's go back into our scene builder here. Okay. So now under the hierarchy, I'm just going to delete this anchor pane here because for whatever reason that doesn't like to show up right away. And I'm just going to add a new anchor pane. I'm going to go over to the layout here. And I want this to be 500 pixels width by 200 pixels height. Alright, and now I'm going to add a few different controls on here. One of them is going to be a combo box. Then I'm going to go back over to the layout menu here. And I'm going to say this is, let's say this is 450 here. And let's go ahead and center that. Let's also put this to, we'll say 30, height of 30. How about that? And for the top, we'll say 30 down. Sure, that sounds good. Let's go ahead and create another one of those. I'm going to line him up somewhere over there. Let's maybe put him down 30 from the bottom. For his width, I'm going to put this at 200. There we go. Then I'm going to copy and paste this one and put him right snug up over here. There we go. And also make sure he is at 30. Now I'm going to put in a couple text fields here. Alright, let's drag a text field. For this, I'm going to put the width at 200 again. For the height, I'll make it a little bit bigger this one. I'll say it's at 50. And we'll put him right snug up there on top of that menu, that combo box. I'm going to copy and paste that and put that right over here. And that looks good. And now one last thing here. I'm just going to put a label right in the center here. For this label, I'm going to go over to the properties now. I want to make this a little bit bigger here. I'm going to say this is a font size 24. This label is just going to be an equal symbol. Let's go ahead and reposition that right in the center there. For both of these, I also want these to be a font of size 24 as well. And there, that's kind of all we need for our layout now. And I think that looks pretty decent. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And now jump back into Eclipse over here. And now, yeah, I think that's actually all we need. So let's jump back over to our controller class now. And now what we want to do is we're going to start initializing all these different controls that we have here. So this one we can call our unit menu or our unit type menu. This one we'll call our left text field. This one's going to be the right text field. This one's going to be the left unit menu. And this one will be the right unit menu. Alright, so let's start adding some of these. Grab our FXML annotation here. I'll make a private combo box. Just to start, I'm going to make this a string right now. We're going to end up changing that later, but just for right now, for simplicity reasons, we'll make it a string. And this will be our unit type menu. Now let's go ahead and import these here. This is going to be the combo box from scene control. And let's add this annotation. There we go. I'm going to copy and paste this a couple more times. 1, 2, 3, 4 more times. Except these are going to be a text field. I'll replace that with a text field. And this is going to be called our left text field. And this one's going to be called our right text field. Let's go ahead and import these into Eclipse here from JavaFX scene control. And then this one's going to be our left unit menu. And this one will be our right unit menu. All right, and I think that's all we need here. Let's go ahead and hook these up to our scene builder now. So go back into scene builder. And I'm going to click on this one under the code tab now. Let's see, do you have our control? Oh, I do not have my controller set anymore. Okay, so back inside the controller, I do need to, I guess, reinitialize the controller class. There we go. And I'm just going to save that, make sure that's saved. I guess maybe that didn't save for some reason. But now on the right-hand side, under the code tab, with my top one selected here for the FX ID, I'm just going to make sure this is our unit type menu. For the left text field, I'm going to make sure this is set to our left text field. Same thing for our right text field. Same thing for our left menu. And then same thing for the right menu. And there we go. So I can go ahead and save this now. Now let's create a couple different actions for all these. So whenever any of these change, let's have something, let's have some sort of event handler inside of our controller class. All right, so I'm going to create a couple different methods here. This is going to be a public void, we'll say on unit type change. And well, this will just be an action event. We'll call that E, make it nice and simple here. Let's go ahead and add action event from JavaFX. And let's make sure we're choosing the one from JavaFX and not from java.awt.event. So make sure you import the correct one here. And there we go. I'm going to copy and paste this a couple more times, just 2 more times, because this is only going to be for our right and our left one. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Here we go. Let's go ahead and format this here. There we go. That looks a little bit better. And this one's going to be called on left unit menu change. And this one will be called on right unit menu change. And now let's add a couple event handlers for the text fields as well. And these ones are going to be a little bit different. This one's going to be called on left text field. I can call it change again, but instead of accepting an action event, this one's going to need to accept a key event. So let's go ahead and import this. And again, make sure we're selecting from javafx.scene.input. And I can just copy this, paste it down here, format a little bit, and change it from left to right. And I will go ahead and save, and then same thing. Let's now go ahead and register all these inside of our scene builder. All right, so for the on action, I'm going to say this is on unit type change. For our left unit menu on action, this is going to be our on left unit menu change. And then same thing for the right one, on right unit menu change. And now for the text fields, we don't want to actually do it for the on action. We want to scroll all the way down to the bottom here. Maybe not all the way, a little bit towards the bottom. And we want to find the one about key type. There we go, on key typed. So let's go ahead and register this with our on left text field change. And then for our right one, same thing, but for the right side, on right text field change. All right, so I can go ahead and save this now. Let's go back into Eclipse again. And let's just kind of put a little bit of some print statements here. I'll say system.out.println, and we can say unit type changed. Go ahead and copy this a few more times here inside each one of these methods and change them accordingly. This will be left menu changed. This one will be right menu changed. This one will be left text change, and this one will be right text changed. There we go. And now in order to actually get these three to sort of go through our action event here, these different methods here, we do need to initialize them with something. So in order to do that, I'm just going to populate them with a couple temporary fields for now. So I'm going to need my FXML annotation. I'm going to do the public void initialize method here. And I'm just going to say unit type menu dot get items dot add all. And I'll add something like unit 1, and then maybe unit 2. And then I'm just going to copy this and do the same thing for the left and the right menu here. So this will be left unit menu. This one's going to be right unit menu. And then just to make sure they're a little bit different here, I'll say this is unit 3, unit 4, and then unit 5, and unit 6. So I'm going to go ahead and save that and rerun this now and just kind of see what this all looks like. Make sure everything's in the proper layout. Make sure all these controls are registered to the proper methods and everything else. So when I changed that, the unit type changed. When I changed this one, left menu changed. This one should say right menu changed. This one should say left text change. And this one should say right text change. Awesome. So everything's all hooked up. And I think now we can actually start working on the actual logic of the application here. So sort of the elementary logic way of sort of handling this application would be to say something like, well, if this one is length and this is a meter and this is a foot, then do this conversion. Else, if this one's a foot and this one's a meter, do this conversion. Else, if this one's an inch and this one's a meter, do this conversion. And so on and so forth. And you just essentially have this huge series of nested if-else statements working on all these different conversions of every different possible combination. And it just gets very complex and confusing, very hard to maintain, makes your code very brittle, easy to break, so on and so forth. So we're going to be doing a little bit cleaner of a design pattern here. And what we're going to be focusing on is a lot of polymorphism. So the whole main idea of what we're going to be doing here is we're going to create one main abstract class, which is going to be called a unit type converter. And this unit type converter is essentially going to be our base abstract class, which is going to hold all the different types of unit conversions. For instance, everything that's going to be in here. So like so it's going to be like a length converter, a volume converter, a speed converter, temperature converter, so on and so forth. So for each different type of unit converter that we're going to have, inside of that class is going to be a list of different actual conversions. And it's actually going to be inside of a hash map essentially, but we can think of it for right now like sort of like a list. So we're going to have, if we have like a length converter, for instance, we would have like a meter converter, we would have a foot converter, and we would have an inch converter. And now instead of having each of these different base converters know how to go to and from all the other types, because again, that would even get pretty confusing. Like an inch should know how to go to and from a foot and a meter and a millimeter and a mile and so on and so forth. The only thing we're going to do in here is each different base unit converter is only going to know how to convert to and from essentially one standardized base unit. So for instance, for length, the base standardized unit is the meter. So all of our different base unit converters, the only thing they're going to know is how to convert themselves to a meter. So for instance, a meter to a meter, well, that's simple. That's just a one-to-one comparison. And now we want to create a foot to a meter, or convert a foot to a meter. We just need, this foot converter class only needs to know how to convert a foot to a meter, or a meter to a foot, so on and so forth. So I guess that would probably beg the question then, well, what if you wanted to convert an inch to a foot? Well, first you would have to convert an inch to a meter, and then you have to convert a meter to a foot. So it kind of sounds a little bit confusing why we'd have to go through all that sort of backwards logic there. But I promise once these classes start getting really big and we start having like dozens of different unit converters, it actually makes it a lot simple that we don't have to go from one unit to another unit to a different unit and have all these nested if-else statements. It's really just a couple very simple steps to go to and from one standardized unit for each given unit type. So that's going to be sort of how we structure our different classes here. And it should make it for a much cleaner design. So let's jump back over into Eclipse and actually start coding some of this up here. So I think it would make sense to first focus on the base unit converter. And again, this is going to be like a meter converter or a foot converter or an inch converter, so on and so forth. So inside of our package explorer, I'm just going to right click on our application. I'm going to create a new package, keep everything nice and tidy here. And I'm just going to call this package converters. And all the different types of converters are going to live inside of here. Inside of this converters package, I'm going to create a new class. This is going to be an abstract class, and it's going to be a base unit converter. And I will click on finish. So first thing is that this base unit converter is going to have some sort of multiplier. That way, all the different children of this base unit converter are essentially going to have to override this multiplier, and it's going to be the essentially the multiplier, so the conversion rate to get to and from that sort of standardized base unit for any given unit type. So this will be protected. We're going to be using big decimal from the java.math library, just because it is going to help us with some very precise conversions here. And this will just be called a multiplier. All right. Let's go ahead and import big decimal from java.math. And then each base unit converter type is going to have to know, well, what its name is. So we're going to have a public abstract, and this will be, it's going to return a string, and it's going to be called getName. And then we're just going to have a couple other methods here. This is going to be a public, it's going to return a big decimal, and this is going to be called convert to base, and it's going to accept a big decimal, and we'll call this value for now. And now what this is going to do is it's just going to return the value dot multiply, not max, multiply by the multiplier. And that's pretty much all we need. But as we see here in a minute, when we do the convert from base method, this will be convert from base, and this one will be divide. We're going to have to pass in a few other arguments to this divide method here, because if we just try and do this, it's actually going to give us an error. We need to specify some sort of precision, or some sort of scale rather, actually. So to set the scale, we're going to be doing a scale of up to 4 decimal places here. And then we need to give it some sort of rounding mode. So we'll say rounding mode half up. So I'll say rounding mode dot half up. And now let's try to remember this sort of scale that we're setting here, because we're going to end up repeating this basically anytime we want some sort of finalized value here. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and set the scale on our multiply as well, just to make sure that all of our units are coming out within the same precision, same sort of accuracy, so on and so forth. So when we set this, or when we multiply this, we're also going to set a scale, and it's also going to be a scale of up to 4 precision, and then again a rounding mode with a half up. Okay, and that's actually all we need for our base unit converter now. So let's go ahead and implement some of these different classes here. So I'm going to create another package here inside of converters. Again, try and keep everything nice and clean and tidy here. And this package is going to hold all of our different length converters. So that's going to be length. And I'll go ahead and save that. Let's go ahead and just create one class just right off the bat here. And this one's going to be a meter converter. Alright, our meter converter is going to extend our new base unit converter that we just created. Base unit converter. And let's go ahead and import this base unit converter. And let's go ahead and add the unimplemented methods here. And then the getName, this is just going to return a meter. Alright, we also want our multiplier, so I'm going to create a constructor for this, and I'll say public meter converter And I'll just say this multiplier is going to equal a big decimal. Big decimal, there, that's how we spell things. And then we're just going to initialize it to 1. Let's go ahead and save, and let's import big decimal quick. And then I'll explain why I'm setting this to just 1. Big decimal. Oh, new big decimal, that's why. That was silly, okay. New big decimal. That's why. And let's import this from java.math. There we go. So the reason I set this to 1 is because, again, for any given base unit converter, we want to know how we can convert to and from some sort of standardized base unit. So for any given length converter that we're going to create, we want all of the different converters under length to be able to know how to convert to and from a meter. Well, in order to convert a meter to and from a meter, we just need to multiply or divide by 1, because a meter, well, is a meter. You know, there's not really any conversion factor that we need there. And that's actually it. That's all we need for this class here. So let's go ahead and create another one. I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste our meter converter. And I'm just going to call this our foot converter instead. And let's jump into this foot converter. And for this get name, we're just going to type in foot. And now for the conversion factor, instead of 1, we're going to put 0.3048. And that is because this is the conversion rate, or the conversion factor, in order to get to and from a foot to a meter. Alright, and there, we can save that now. And now let's move on to creating our unit type converter. So back in our package explorer, I'm going to click on our converters here, and I'm just going to create a new class. And this is again going to be an abstract class, so I will check that box there. And this one's going to be called a unit type converter. Now I'm going to have a couple private fields in here. One of them is just going to be a string, and this is going to be our standard base unit. And then we're also going to keep a sort of hash map here. So I'm going to say this is a private, this is going to be a map, and our key is going to be a string, such as like meter or foot or inch or whatever else. And then our value is going to be that converter itself, the base converter. And it's actually a base unit converter, isn't it? Base unit converter. And this will just be called our base unit converters. All right. And we can just go ahead and initialize this to a new hash map right off the bat here. Why not? And I'll go ahead and save this. I'm going to have to import hash map. And I'm also going to have to import our map here. There we go. So now I can work on the constructor. And this is going to be protected. And this is just going to be a unit type converter. And this will accept our string, which is going to be our standard base unit. And then it's also going to accept a map of this type here, which is a string and base unit converter. And this will just be called, again, base unit converters. Make it nice and simple for us. Make sure I know how to spell protected here. Protected. There we go. And all this is going to do is just going to say this dot standard base converter, or standard base unit equals standard base unit. And then this base unit converters is going to equal our passed in base unit converters. And there we go. We're going to want another method in here, which is just going to be called convert. It's going to be public, it's going to return a big decimal, and it's just going to be called convert. And we want to convert a big decimal value, and then we're going to convert from something to something else. And what this something else is going to be is we're going to pass in the actual base unit converter that we're converting from, and also what base unit converter that we need to convert to. And I'm just going to go ahead and save this, import big decimal. There we go. And then for right now, I'm just going to return null because we're going to work on this logic here in a minute. We do want another couple methods that'll be handy later on inside of this class here. And one of them is just going to be a get base converters map. And this is just going to return all of our base converters here. So really, I think I could just right click on here. I could say source, generate setters and getters. But I don't really want the setter, just the getter here. So I'll go ahead and generate that. There we go. That is beautiful. I'm also going to want a way to just return just a list off of this. So instead of the map, I'm going to want a way to return only the base converters themselves, because that's going to be nice and handy for when we want to actually populate our drop-down lists. So this will just be a public, this will be a list of base unit converter. And this will be, what should we call this? We should call this one get, let's go ahead and call this one map actually. I'll say this one's get our map. That way we know it's getting the hash map, and then this one will be a list. That way we know we're getting an actual list instead. And let's go ahead and import list. There we go. And what we're going to do here is we're going to return a new array list of base unit converter. And what this is going to be is it's going to be our base unit converters dot values. As simple as that. And let's go ahead and import array list here from java.util. And then we are going to need one more method actually, and this one's going to be public, and we'll make this one abstract because we want all of our children, all the implementers of unit type converter to actually override and create this method here. So this is going to be abstract, and this one's just going to be called get unit type. Okay. This does need a return type as well, which is going to be type string. That's why. There we go. All right, so that's pretty much it for that. Now let's work on the actual logic of what we're going to be doing here for this convert method. So in order to convert this, in order to convert anything essentially, we're first just going to check if to and from are the same, because if what we're converting to is the same thing that we're converting from, well then we kind of don't really need to do anything. So first, if to.getName dot equals from dot getName, well, if we're converting to and from the same exact thing, we're really just going to return our value dot, again, we want to set the scale for everything that we're doing here. So return value dot set scale. If we can recall, we want to set the scale with a precision of 4 and then a rounding mode of half up. Okay. So if we're converting the same stuff, just kind of to and from the same thing, just return that value. There's no need to do any actual conversion methods here or logic. Else, well, now we need to do something. If it's not the same thing, well, now we need to do something, all right? So first, let's convert to the actual base. So we're going to create a new big decimal, and we'll just call this base. And this is going to equal our base unit converters. We want to get what we're converting from, so from dot get name. And now we just want to convert to base here. Convert to base with the value. So that's pretty simple. Now we want to say, okay, so now that we have this base, so now we should say, well, if what we're converting to is the base, well then we can just return this base. So if to.getName dot equals, this is going to be our base unit, and it's actually going to be our standard base unit. Okay. So if what we're converting to is our standardized base unit, which is what we just converted to just now, well then we can just return the base, and again, let's make sure we set the scale here. Dot set scale 4 rounding mode up. Else, if it's not the base, Well, now we need to convert from the base, essentially. So we have this base value, and we need to convert this base value essentially to what our from is, or from what our from is, actually. So we're going to create another one, another big decimal. We're going to say big decimal. We'll call this from base. And this one's going to equal, again, let's get our base unit converters dot get. Well, now we want to get what we're converting to, so to dot get name. And again, just convert from base, the value. Actually, not even the value. Now we want the base, actually, this time. We want to convert from the base what the base is. And now we can just return from base dot, again, set scale, which I believe is already in my clipboard, so I'll just paste it. There we go. And that's all the logic that we need for this convert method here. All right, let's go ahead and clean some things up. And I think that is now all we need for the unit type converter. So now let's go ahead and create an actual unit type converter child, someone who implements this. So back inside the package explorer, I'm going to go to our length package. I'm going to right click, create new. This is going to be a class. This one's going to be called our length converter. And this length converter is going to extend our brand new unit type converter. And I'll go ahead and press save, import unit type converter. And now let's go ahead and add the constructor here. Although my constructor is not going to accept any arguments, actually. Okay. So now for the standard base unit, what I could do is just create this as a, I could do that or just extract this into its own private variable, but I think that's kind of unnecessary, to be honest. What I'm really just going to do is put length right here because this is a type, or no, sorry, this is actually our standard base unit. This is supposed to be meter, isn't it? Okay. Our standard base unit for length is the meter. And now what we want to pass in is a hash map of all the different types of base unit types of length conversions that we have. Right now all we have is foot and meter. We'll add more later on, but let's just go ahead and add those to our hash map right now. So in order to do that, I'm just going to say new hash map. This is going to be a type, again, of string and base unit converter. All right, and I'm just going to implement this right off the bat here. I'm going to put something with something else. Okay? And let's see here. I'll go ahead and save that. It's complaining right now because it's not of the right types, I believe. But we'll go ahead and fix that in a minute here. Yeah, we'll fix that stuff in a minute here. First, let's go ahead and actually add in our meter converter and our foot converter. So I'm going to create these as private fields here, and they're going to be static fields. And it's going to be of a base unit converter type, and we'll call this one the meter converter. And really, this is just going to equal a new meter converter. And let's focus on now how important it is that we're saying it's actually a base unit converter, but we're implementing it as the meter converter instead. And this is where the whole polymorphism really comes into play here. And then same thing, we're going to create another one. This one's going to be our foot converter, and we're going to implement this as the foot converter. And I'll go ahead and save that. And now what I can put in here is I'm going to say meter dot get name. And I'm going to put in our meter converter here. And I can go ahead and save that. And now it is actually complaining about something. So let me see what you're actually complaining about here. Oh, import hash map, that's why. There we go. And this is supposed to be meter converter, not just meter. And that should have gotten rid of all of the errors here, although I do have one more. Oh, I still need to add the unimplemented methods. There we go. And that's the get unit type, and this one is just going to return length. So whenever we say, hey, length converter, what is your unit type? Well, I want you to return length. but I want you to spell it properly. There we go, length. So now let's go ahead and put our foot converter inside here as well. And again, very simple. Just replace this meter converter with a foot converter. And there, that's pretty much it. That's all we actually need for our length converter class here. So now we can add all these different units to the UI. We can actually replace those strings that we made earlier with these actual different unit and base converters that we just created now. So I'm going to go back over to our controller class here. And I'm instead of the unit type menu being a combo box of string, this is actually going to be a combo box of unit type converter. And let's go ahead and import this here. I guess let's just try and manually import it here. So this is going to be from application.converters dot unit type converter. There we go. Take matters into my own hands. All right. For the left and the right menu, again, instead of the string, we want this to be a base unit converter. And let's go ahead and save that, and let's try and import these. Hey, that one works. Beautiful. Okay. And now we're going to have to change up all of this logic here. So really now, what I'm first going to do is I'm going to bring in our actual length converter. All right, so I'm just going to say it's a private, I'll say it's a static. Again, this is going to be of a type unit type converter. And it's going to be called length converter, but I'm going to implement it as our new length converter. And now what I want to do is, again, save that, bring this bad boy in here, import him, if Eclipse ever lets me. There we go. And I'm also going to create a list of the visibility. So this constructor, I need to change the constructor from protected to public. There we go. So let's go ahead and save that and go back into the controller. And there we go. Now I also want to create a list of all the different types of unit type converters we have. Again, right now we only have length, but soon in we'll add volume and speed and temperature and everything else that we can think of. So I'm going to say this is a private list of unit type converters, and I'll say all unit type converters. And this is going to equal arrays.as list. And right now, I'm just going to populate in my length converter. So let's go ahead and add or save that. Let's add in, import the list from Java util, and beautiful. Okay. So now what we can do is we can say unit type menu inside of our initialize method. We're going to be saying unit type menu dot get items again dot add all, and we're just going to add in all the unit type converters. Now what we also want to do, I guess right when the application starts off, we could probably just like select the first item in our list, make it a little bit more user friendly. So we'll say unit type menu dot get selection model dot, this is really nice and easy, select first. Beautiful. Now one more thing we actually need to do here is we essentially kind of want to convert this unit type converter to a string. And the reason we want to do it is because whenever we select on one of the unit type converters, we want a very quick and easy way to be able to tell which unit type it is. And that's why we had our nice little method in here earlier called getUnitType. And it's just going to return a string that says length or volume or speed or temperature or what have you. All right, so in order to do that, we need to set some sort of converter on this unit menu, on this combo box here. So I'm going to say UnitType menu dot set converter, and we're going to be creating a new string converter. This is going to be of a type unit type converter. There we go. Something like that. And let's go ahead and import this here. And we are going to import this from javafx.util. There we go, and now we're going to add the unimplemented methods. And we don't really care about the from string, but what we do want is the to string. And what we are going to return from this is we're going to return, let's replace argument 0 to like our object, or let's call it our converter actually. We'll say converter.getUnitType. And there we go. So that's kind of all we need for that one there. Now let's work on the left and the right menu items as well. So underneath here, now that we have since we selected the first one, now let's get our list of unit converters for this unit converter that we selected, which is, again, we only have one in there right now. It's our length unit converter. But let's go ahead and get all the different base unit converters for whatever unit type is selected here. So I'm just going to go ahead and create another list. This one's going to be of type base unit converters. And we'll call this one base unit converters. And this is going to equal our unit type menu dot get value dot get base unit converters list. That's where that handy function comes into play there. And pretty simple, all we need to do now is just say our left unit menu dot get items dot add all, and we're just going to add in our base unit converters here. And I will do the same exact thing for the right side. Alright, I could go ahead and select them as well, kind of like what we did earlier. So I'm going to say left unit menu dot get selection model, and I'm just going to select the first item, which is going to be at index 0, and then for the right one I will select the item in the second list, which is going to be at index 1. And now the same thing that we did up here, we want to set a converter type for each of these. For the left and the right unit menu, we want to set another string converter. So really what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. I'm going to extract it out into its own variable this time though. I'm going to say string converter, which is going to be of a type base unit converter. And I'll say this is our base unit string converter. And this is going to equal a new string converter, but instead of the unit type converter, it's going to be of the type base converter. And this should return a base converter. This one should accept a base converter. And instead of the unit type, it's going to return the converter.justGetName. There we go. All right, and now that I have this in its own variable, what I'm just going to do is I'm going to say left unit menu dot set converter, passing in the base unit string converter. And then same thing with the right side. I'll change that to that. Press save. And I think we can actually run this application now and just kind of see what this looks like here. This should show the sort of overall framework that we're going for with this design. So I'm going to run the application, make sure I don't have any errors here. And there we go. So if I type in 1, so nothing's actually converting yet, which is fine. That's because we haven't actually implemented that logic yet. So let's go ahead and work on that next. We can see all of our different drop-down menus actually have what we expect them to have now, which is awesome. And we can change them, so on and so forth. So now let's actually work on the actual conversion logic whenever we change either the text fields or change either of the base unit, the left or the right unit menus. So there's kind of only two real methods that we need in order to convert anything here. And that's going to be when we're converting from the left to the right, and we're converting from the right to the left. So I'm going to create a couple new private methods in here. This is going to be a private void. This is going to be called convert left to right. And that's going to do something. And we're going to create another one, which is going to be convert right to left. And that's going to do something else. And now what these are going to do, well, first right off the bat, if we type something into one of these text fields and then we delete it, well, if it's an empty string, we don't want to do any conversion. In fact, instead, what we want to do is once the text is deleted on one side, we would also want to delete it on the other side as well. So let's first do a little bit of defensive programming in here and just sort of create some sort of check right for that right off the bat. So when we're converting from the left to the right, well, we're going to be converting from the left if the left side was changed. So we're going to check the left then, and we're going to say, well, if our left text field dot get value, is it get value? No, it's get text actually. Yeah. If our left text field dot get text is blank, well, if we had something in there and now it's deleted, well, it's also deleted on the right side. So we'll say right text field dot set text blank, an empty string. Else, let's do our logic here. All right. And I can kind of just like copy and paste this exact structure into the right side. And just anywhere there's a left, change that to a right. And anywhere there's a right, change that to a left. All right. So now let's work on the actual logic. So if we're converting the left to the right, well, first thing we should do is figure out what unit type we actually have. Are we working with length or speed or volume or whatever else? So I'm going to say a unit type converter, and we'll say this is our unit converter. Well, this is just going to equal our unit type menu dot get value. All right, so now that we have what type we're converting, we're going to say let's extract out our left one, because again we're converting the left to the right. So let's first get what our left one is. It's going to be a big decimal. We'll say left unit. That's going to equal a new big decimal of our left text field dot get text. But we actually need to convert this. We need to cast this to a double. So I'm going to say double dot parse double, and I'll erase it. So that's again, that's going to be the left text field dot get text. Let's throw an extra ending parentheses there. I might need to import big decimal into our converter, and I do, or our controller rather. And there we go. All right, so we have our unit. We have what type of unit we need to convert. We have the actual value of the unit we need to convert. Now let's convert to the right side. So we're going to say big decimal right unit. Well, this is going to equal our unit converter dot convert. And what do we need to do? We're going to pass in the actual value, which is going to be the left unit. We need to pass in our what we're converting from, which is going to be our left unit menu dot get value. And now what are we converting to? We're converting to the right unit menu dot, again, get value. All right. So that pretty much did all the conversion for us. Now all we need to do is just plug it back into our text field. So we're going to say right text field dot set text, and that's going to be our right unit dot. What we want to do here is we want to remove any trailing zeros, and then we also want to convert it to a plain string. So we have a nice little handy method here to convert to plain string, but we also have one to strip out any trailing zeros, just to make it, a little bit cleaner for us here. And there, that's pretty much all we need to do. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy this logic and replace it down into convert right to left. And again, any place I see a left, I'm going to change that to a right. Change this to a right. Anytime I see a right, I'm just going to change that to a left. And let's just kind of run through this, make sure the logic seems normal here. If we're converting the right to the left, we'll then grab our right from the right text field. Let's create our left, and that's going to be from the right and then from the right menu to the left menu. And now let's set it to the left menu using the left unit. Okay, yep, that seems right. So I can go ahead and save that. And now all we really need to do is just plug these methods into our action event handlers now. So whenever we change the left text field, well, we want to convert the left text field to the right text field. And whenever we change the right text field, we want to convert from right to left. So convert right to left. And we can kind of do the same thing for the unit menu change, but it's actually going to be a little bit backwards, and I'll show you why in a minute here. So whenever we change the right menu, what we really want to do is convert, or whenever we change the left menu, we really want to convert right to left. And then whenever we change the right menu, we want to convert left to right. And let's go ahead and save this and run this application, and I'll show you why those seem a little bit backwards right now. It might kind of seem a little bit counterintuitive right off the bat here, but once we run this application, you might see, hopefully, why it makes a little bit more sense why we did it like this. So I'm going to do a 1 here, and that changes that. I'll do 1 there, and that changes that. And now if I were to change this to meter, and now it changes this text field instead. So when I change the right side, it's going to take the current value of that and change it to whatever letter is now. So I can now toggle back and forth between the meter and the foot. And it just kind of provides for a better user experience this way, versus like doing it the other way. You kind of get like lost in what you're trying to do here. So that's actually all we really need for this, the converting. So let's now do one last little thing here, and let's work on adding a separate unit type. And then once we add that second unit type, we're going to add it to this list. And then we need to put in another event handler that is going to specify when we change this unit menu here, well, then we also want to zero out these fields. And then we also need to change these types to these base unit types to be whatever the base unit types are for this unit converter is. So let's work on that logic now. So the next type of units that we're going to create here is going to be volume. So back in the package explorer, I'm going to go back over to the converters package, right click, create a new package, and this one will be called volume. And now I'm going to take my meter converter, and I'm going to copy that and paste it down into the volume converter here, or the volume package, sorry. And go into this one, and I'm just going to change this right now to a liter converter instead. And then I'm going to save, hover over here to change the file name. I'm going to let Eclipse change the file name for me. Rename file to liter converter. And let's go ahead and change the constructor. The conversion factor can stay the same, the multiplier can stay the same. But instead of meter, this is now just going to say liter. And I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this again. And this time I'm going to make a gallon converter. And open up the gallon converter. Change the get name to gallon instead. And then the conversion factor to go to and from a gallon to a liter is going to be 3.785. And I'm sure most people don't have memorized all the different conversion factors between different units, but down in the description below is going to be a link to a separate post I have that has all the different conversion factors that we're going to be needing for this application here, which we'll do sort of after this next little section here. But for right now, we're just going to create this gallon converter using 3.758, or 785, sorry, and go ahead and save that. Now I'm going to take this length converter over here. I'm going to copy that, paste it down into the volume package again. And I'm going to open this. I'm going to change length to volume. And I'm going to go ahead and save that. Let's hover over this, and let's actually just change it manually here instead. So I'm going to click on the file itself. I'm going to right click. Let's say refactor, rename, and I'm just going to rename this to a volume converter. All right, I'm going to change the constructor name, And then I'm going to change this to a leader converter. And I'm going to implement that as a leader converter. And I'm going to change this foot converter to a gallon converter and implement that as a gallon converter. And now replace the meter with the liter and replace the foot with the gallon. And then down here for the unit type, I am going to return volume instead. And for the standard base unit is going to be the liter. And there, that's pretty much it. See how quick and easy that is now to just add a whole new different type of unit type with all the conversions and everything else. Let's go ahead and go back into the controller class now. And now we're going to add our new unit type here. So I'm going to copy our length converter and paste it right underneath. I want to keep it as a type of unit type converter. Again, we're doing some nice clean polymorphism here. I'm going to rename this to a volume converter, and I'm going to implement this as a volume converter. And I'll go ahead and save, import this volume converter. There we go. And now let's add this volume converter to our list of converters. And now what we want to do is we want to update the action event handler logic for whenever this unit type menu changes. So first thing, whenever it changes, let's extract out the actual list that we need. So we'll go ahead and create an observable list here. We'll say observable list of our base unit converter. And we'll call this our new base converters. All right. And this is going to equal an FX collections dot observable array list. And this observable array list is just going to be the unit type menu dot get value dot get the base unit converters list. And I'll go ahead and save this. I'm going to have to import a couple things again. And there we go. So now that I have that list, what we can do is we can say our left unit menu dot set items, and we're just going to set it with our new base converters. And I'll do the exact same thing with our right side as well. But before we do this, we should actually change the left and the right text fields, because once we do this, well, then we're essentially going to trigger the text, the change event handlers again, and that's just going to cause some problems. So let's just go ahead and reinitialize, clear out the different text fields. So I'm going to say left text field dot set text, and we're just going to set that to an empty string. And I'll do the same exact thing for the right side as well. And now the last thing, again, just kind of clean it up, make it a little bit more user-friendly, is we're just going to reselect the left and the right side to be the first and the second items in the menu, respectively. So I'll copy that from up there and just paste it down there. And that should be all we need now. I'm going to go ahead and run the application again and just kind of see what this looks like. Alright, so I can drop down. There we go. I do have one little error here. Let's see what this error was. What did we mess up here? Controller 72. You know what it is, yep. So we should do a little bit more defensive programming here, because this could be null at some point. So what we should say first off is if it is null, then just return null. We're not going to be changing anything. So I'm going to say converter is equal to null. If so, just return null. Otherwise, let's return the actual name, because if it is null and then we try and access a method from there, well, then we're going to get our great old friend, the null pointer exception. So I can go ahead and save that, and let's rerun that now. And now it should work a little bit better here. and change that. There we go. We do not get our good old friend, the null pointer exception anymore. And now whenever I change the unit type menu, we can see the actual left and the right menu, they change respectively as well. Right now it's on meter and foot, and I'll change it to volume, and now I have liter and gallon. And I can convert to and from these respectively, and there. That seems to be exactly what we need. So that's pretty much it for that. Now, really, the last thing to do is just sort of add in all the rest of our different unit converters, unit conversion types that we need. So we have a whole bunch more for length that we could add. We have a whole bunch more for volume we could add. And then we could add in all the different ones for like temperature and speed and energy and weight and so much more. Again, check the description down below for a link to a post. I'm going to have all these different unit converter types. We're not going to go through adding each one of these. That's going to be sort of a challenge, some sort of homework for you, I guess. I'll show you the end state of all the different types that I have here, but go ahead and press pause right now. Open up that link to see all the different unit conversion types and see if you can sort of figure this out on your own. Before you go ahead and do that, actually, I would like to ask a huge favor from you. If you've gotten this far into the video, you obviously found it at least a little bit interesting. So can I please ask you to hit that thumbs up button and then also subscribe, because it really does help the channel grow. But with that out of the way, go ahead and try that out for yourself and then come back here to the same video and see how close you were to the implementations that I have compared to what you had. Good luck. All right, welcome back. So hopefully you were able to get through most or all of those different converters, writing up all the rest of the different converter types for this application here. So we'll go through everything that I've sort of done here in a minute, but before we do that, I kind of want to go over just a couple small little refactorings that I did as I was continuing through all the rest of them. So the first one is going to be back inside the controller class. Originally, I created a separate instance, a private static field for all the different unit converter types, like our length converter and our volume converter and everything else. And I kind of realized that we didn't actually need a separate private field for that. I could have just instantiated a brand new instance directly inside of our all unit type converters assignment here. So within the arrays.as list, I just create a brand new instance of each one of the different converter types that I actually need. And, again, that just sort of eliminates the need for a separate private field unnecessarily inside of our controller class. Now, the next refactoring I did is more of just like a little optimization, actually. And it's going to be within this convert method here. Because what I realized was originally we kind of just had, if our from and our to are the same, well, then we can just return that same value. Else, we're going to do everything else. And what we did first was we essentially converted to the base, and then we converted from the base if we needed to. But I kind of realized if we were already converting from the base, for instance, if our from was already the base, well, then we kind of just unnecessarily reconverted from the base. So I kind of saved us a step here by putting in another check. So now what this whole convert method looks like is essentially same thing. If what we're converting to and from is the same thing, well, then we're just going to return the value as is. There's no need to do any conversion there. Otherwise, if what we are converting from is the base unit, then the only conversion we need to do is convert from the base unit. Otherwise, then if we're not converting from our base unit, well, now we can go ahead and convert to the base. We don't need to convert to the base for this one, but if we do need to convert to the base, then we'll convert to the base, and then same thing. We'll just check, well, if what we were converting to is the base, well, then we can just return our actual base unit here. Otherwise, now we need to convert from the base. So I hope that sort of makes a little bit of sense. And again, it kind of just saves like one extra step of conversion unnecessarily here. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and look at a few of these different conversion types here. So the first one I have up here is energy. And within energy, the standard unit for energy is the joule. So I created a whole bunch of different unit conversion types that go to and from the joule. And you can go ahead and look at these again. All these different values are going to be in the chart down below, or the chart in the link down below. Let's see, we already had length. I added a whole bunch more for length, like centimeter and kilometer. I added one for mile and an inch, so on and so forth. I have just a few for speed. The standard for speed is going to be just meters per second. And I created one for miles per hour, and then not converter as well. We'll get into temperature in a minute. I created a whole bunch of ones for time. The standard unit for time is going to be the second. So all these different ones convert to and from a second, like a year and a week and a nanosecond and a millisecond, so on and so forth. Let's see, we already had volume, which again, the standard was the liter, but I created a whole bunch more for like a cup and a fluid ounce. We already had gallon, but now we have kiloliter, pint, quart, tablespoon, teaspoon, so on and so forth. And then I also created one for weight, or I guess mass would have been the more proper name, but I created a weight converter, and the standard for that is going to be the kilogram. So all these other ones will convert to and from the kilogram, like a pound and an ounce and a milligram and everything else. So all of those, for the most part, should have been pretty easy. The only one that might have given you a little bit of trouble might have been this temperature conversion. And the reason why this one might have been a little tricky is because with all these other unit types, we're really just doing one basic conversion to get to and from the standard. It's going to be a multiply or a divide by the multiplier. But with our temperature conversions, they're going to be a little bit different. So the standard for temperature, the standard unit for temperature is going to be Celsius. So these other two unit types here, these other two temperature unit types, are going to need to know how to convert to and from Celsius. And the formula for converting to and from Celsius is just a little bit differently here. So let's first actually look at the Kelvin one, because this one's a little bit simpler. So in order to convert to and from Kelvin, we really just need to subtract by 273.15 or add 273.15. And I'm actually going to do a tiny bit of a optimization, refactoring here right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this constant here, this value here, because this is a magic number, and we could also just extract out this entire big decimal into its own constant. That way, every time every time we call one of these methods here, we don't have to recreate and reallocate memory for this big decimal. It's already going to be saved for us one time, and we're just going to reference it one time. So I'm going to highlight this whole thing here, and I'm going to left click or control click. I'm going to go to refactor and extract local variable here. And I'm just going to say, I'm going to call it constant. Here we go. I'll call it the Kelvin constant. How about that? And replace all of them. I'm going to declare it as final as well. There we go. And that put that inside of here. I actually want to make this I wanted to put this at the class level instead. So I'm going to create this as private. I'm going to make it final and static. And then again, I'm just going to replace this value here with this one right here. All right, and now you can see also inside of our Kelvin converter, I also overrid our convert to base and our convert from base method, because again, when we're converting temperatures, it's not just a simple multiply or divide. Some of these temperature conversions do a little bit different things. For instance, Kelvin, all we need to do is subtract by our Kelvin constant or add by our Kelvin constant. So I'm going to go ahead and say that. And now let's get into the Fahrenheit converter, because this one's even a little bit more confusing. Because again, the formula for Fahrenheit to Celsius is just a little bit different here. So in order to convert Fahrenheit to Celsius, convert to the base, we first need to subtract 32 and then multiply by 5/9. And then kind of like we showed in the Kelvin converter, I extracted both of these out into their own private static final constants here of a big decimal. So 32 is just a big decimal of the value 32. 5_9 is kind of supposed to be representing like 5/9. And when we do, this is kind of what's a little bit silly about big decimal, is if I were to do like this in here, it wouldn't work exactly all that great. And I believe the reason is because we're really just trying to get like a double here. And I don't know, it just didn't really work out the best way. So I just put in the actual decimal up to like 5 or 6 different decimal places right here anyways. And it just seems to work a little bit better for the actual conversion rate. And then same thing, I also created another private static final big decimal. This one's the 9/5. And 9 divided by 5 is just an easy 1.8. So I just created that constant there as well. And now these convert to base and convert from base methods are kind of just a little bit easier to read. So now we say value.subtract 32, and then we're going to multiply by 5/9. And then when we convert from base, when we're converting Fahrenheit from the base here, well, what we need to do is first multiply by 9/5 and then add 32. And that's pretty much it. I'll go ahead and do one final demonstration here of what this application looks like. And we can see for our unit menu type, we have all these different unit conversions here. If I go to temperature, and I'll go to Fahrenheit, I'll say 100 degrees Celsius equals 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Or if I say 0 degrees Celsius equals 32 degrees Fahrenheit. If I were to say -40, well, that would turn out to be -40. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'm curious as to how far you got along, if you got all of these, or maybe you got more. Put a comment down below if you actually did some more converters inside here. I'm curious to know which ones you did or didn't do. Also curious to know if you did anything a little bit differently, if you think some of this code here could be refactored a little bit better. By all means, drop it down in the comments below and let me know what you think. Otherwise, again, gotta ask a huge favor from y'all. If you did like this video, please smash that thumbs up button. It really does help the channel grow. Lets YouTube algorithm know that this video is at least halfway decent. And do consider subscribing so you can be notified when I come out with other JavaFX and SceneBuilder videos, or other videos in general. I come out with a lot of videos within like testing frameworks like JUnit, and just learning a whole bunch of other really great principles like refactoring techniques and design patterns and everything else. But enough of all that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and kill this video now. And until next time, everyone, happy coding.